once we kind of got through the market downturn, everything got really good and everything loosened up and investors got back in it. It kind of almost became a fad, especially because of the TV shows that seemed to really bring a lot of new investors into the marketplace.
This episode brought to you by Suites at Madison. Meeting and conference rooms for rent by the hour, week, month, or year. Suites at Madison, where business gets done. Check them out at www.downtowntampaoffice.com. Now, on to the show.
You are listening to the Invest Florida Real Estate Show, covering topics in lending, buy and sell strategies, property management, hot markets, and tips and tools to guide you along the way on your path to real estate success. You want Florida investment real estate talk? You have come to the right place. And now, our hosts, Eric Odom and Steven Silverman.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Invest Florida Real Estate Show. This is your co-host, Eric Odom, along with Steven Silverman. Steven, I'm back in the country.
You're back from abroad, and, we had a good time while you were away.
Yeah, I could tell that when the cat is away, the mouse will play. And I was fortunate enough to be able to go over and see my family in the UK and drank some wine over in France and had a really relaxing week. It's the first vacation I've had for more than a long weekend in 3 years, and look forward to having those types of time away. I mean, the good part about it is I came back and there were some people, not you, but there were other people that were working when I was gone. Several weeks ago, we did an episode on cannabis industry. We tried to talk to the retail owners that are out there that cannabis is coming. It's going to be one of the most significant retail consumers over the next year to 2 years. And you need to know what the options are here and whether it's a good fit for your center. But one of our agents, he actually is, I guess he's in LOI with one deal and he completed another lease on another. And so
for cannabis space.
Yeah, for cannabis. Yeah.
And so it's really interesting because, we spoke about it not so long ago. It's not just theoretical. It's already been legalized in Canada now, and it's starting to really take root in Florida.
Yeah, obviously it's a closed circuit. We talked about that. You can go back and listen to the episode, which is 2 or 3 episodes ago. But there are going to be significant consumers of retail space. And if you're a retail owner, this is something you want to pay attention to. Could be a very good tenant option for you in your plaza. I wanted to take a minute just to read a review that we got. User doesn't give their name, unfortunately, but we're going to read it anyway. It says Google user, and their review was great resource for real estate information, insight into the market in Florida, but also lots of advice you can use everywhere. Upbeat presentation, entertains and educates. Love to listen to their presentation at the gym, on the commute. Keep up the great work, guys. Hey, you know what? That was off of Google Play Store. We really appreciate whoever has taken the time to leave those reviews. They are important. Guests have a lot of demands on their schedule. And when guests are determining how to invest their time, and maybe it's the first time they've ever heard of us, they will go to the Google Play Store and go to the iTunes Store and see if anybody actually listens to us. And when you leave reviews, it helps us with our guests. So whoever leaves those reviews, we really, really appreciate it. We'll always take the time to acknowledge that you invested some time to leave us some kind words. So thanks so much again. If you haven't done that already, really appreciate it if you could. Steven, we have a guest today talking about Jacksonville.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Jacksonville and how to make money rehabbing houses.
Yeah, we haven't had a Jax discussion in a while, so we're looking forward to hearing what our guest has to say. So unless you've got something else, let's go ahead and get rolling.
Today we have with us Cameron Gaskill. Cameron is the president of Suncoast Renovation and Designs Incorporated, based out of Jacksonville. Cameron's parents were in construction and bartending. I was hoping we'd be talking about the bartending path today, but I think Cameron's going to be talking more about the construction end. At 25, he got his degree in architectural drafting and design. In 2003, Cameron bought his first house to live in and purchased his first investment property in 2006. He started rehabbing his own properties, and people liked his work so much that he started a construction company that specialized in rehabbing houses for other investors. He has now rehabbed over 800 houses in Northeast Florida. His business comprises wholesaling, building a rental portfolio, flipping houses, and helping others in their real estate transactions. He also teaches classes and boot camps for a local rear club. Cameron, welcome to the Invest Florida show.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, Cameron, really appreciate you investing your time with us today. Can you give us somewhat of a 30,000 foot view of your business and what you look for right now and sort of what makes you tick on the investment side?
Yeah, as an investor, for me personally, the typical 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot house is kind of what we're looking for. We like to be in a good retail area. I don't mind if it's a mixture of retail and rental, but we definitely do more flipping. I don't do much rental property right now, but we do flip it for other investors ourselves. But right now we're kind of looking for just a regular single family house. We really like something that's going to be sold, like ARV is going to be somewhere between probably $180,000 to the $280,000 range. That seems to be the sweet spot where we find the most buyers here in Jacksonville.
Okay. Now, talk to us a little bit about the Jax market. Where have we come from in the last couple of years? Where are we now? I imagine you guys are like the rest of the state, that the bottleneck is in the deal. Maybe you could talk about some of the areas that maybe you see coming on that perhaps could be showing a little bit of pop that weren't 2 years ago. Some evolving, emerging areas. And I'll just be quiet and let you talk about Jax.
That's a significant victory you got there. He's going to be quiet for a little bit, Cameron. So take it and run.
Okay. Yeah, it's been very, up and down over the last couple of years, especially once the market fell and everybody's always trying to predict what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. And I don't think we ever get it exactly right. But I know here in Jacksonville, it's been very good overall. And once we kind of got through the market downturn, everything got really good and everything loosened up and investors got back in it. It kind of almost became a fad, especially because of the TV shows that seemed to really bring a lot of new investors into the marketplace. And I would say that the landscape changed a lot, especially around like wholesaling because of the hedge funds that came into town. And the way the wholesalers were looking at it was, why should I sell one house to 100 investors when I can sell 100 houses to one investor? So it really changed their business model, which affected all the other real estate investors here. And because the hedge funds were willing to pay so much more money than the individual investors, it made it really tough for us. Now, once that had changed and the hedge funds kind of left town, the wholesalers really seemed to like what was going on. They liked those prices, and they kept the prices up. And I think the problem was a lot of the really new investors that didn't know what was going on or didn't know what they were doing were paying those high numbers. And kind of, we call them one and dones. They go in, they do a deal, they don't do very well, and they don't come back anymore. But as long as they're out there, those wholesalers were keeping those prices high. They were also asking for a lot higher assignment fees than they used to in the past. And so that kind of started with the first challenge, was that. And then just so many people getting in and having so much competition, it really changed how we did things. So, like for me personally, I had to change my formula. What was the acceptable margin or percentage that I was willing to make? I had to lower that just to compete with more people. So that was kind of how the landscape changed as far as like when the market turned. As far as location here in Jacksonville, the north side of Jacksonville is really a primary like a rental neighborhood. There's a few retail areas, spots that are in the north side, but primarily that's rental area. And then we have the west side, which is kind of a mixture of both. And anything getting closer to the beach is prime. If you can get that, you consider yourself lucky, because it's very hard to find that, and most people are willing to pay, top dollar for that. So the areas haven't changed too much as far as this area was good and now it's not, or vice versa. The areas have always been fairly the same. The biggest change I saw was just how business was done and how the hedge funds, when they came in, really changed the landscape of wholesalers. And then the other thing that I noticed is it used to be wholesalers were wholesalers, and now it seems like wholesalers are also flippers, which is very smart on their part. I'm actually a wholesaler as well, but they kind of get to cherry pick, what they want to keep, and anything they don't want to keep, they will try to sell that stuff out. So that's kind of the biggest thing that I've noticed around here.
What are the neighborhoods that you like the best specifically? And you said retailer is a big driver. Are there any other drivers that would instigate you to like a neighborhood?
Mm-hmm. There's an area here, Orange Park, which is right next to Jacksonville. Uh-huh. And to get it even more condensed, there's a little place called Argyle. That is a little area that I really like. Those houses back there were built in the 80s. And those are really good houses to flip because, in my opinion, and I used to build houses in the late 90s early 90s and on through that. But the houses that were built in the 80s and 90s is when they started kind of doing the vaulted ceilings. The rooms started getting a little bit bigger, and but they still divided like the dining rooms, the living rooms, and stuff. Whereas today, everybody likes that open concept. But those houses that were built in the 80s and 90s are so easy to change into that big open concept just by taking out some non-bearing walls. So that's kind of an area that I really like to focus on because I can do what seems like a very big change for a low cost and really affect what the house looks like on the inside and make it appealing for the buyers.
And talking of buyers, have you found that the nature of the buyers is changing? Are there more people coming into the market or more foreigners? Or what can you tell us about what you notice about the buying population?
Do you mean for the end buyer or for the investor buyer?
I guess for the end buyer and then how the investor buyer reaches them.
Yeah, the end buyer has gotten very sophisticated because of all the TV shows, flipping houses on TV. So they see all this nice stuff. So they're very in tune with the trends. Right now, everybody likes the white shaker cabinets with the gray walls and the gray wood plank tile. So that's what they expect. Whereas, say, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we were doing the neutral colors, the beige and the tan, and they're not into that anymore. So you've got to stay up to date with what the buyer wants. And my wife is actually a realtor, so I get to listen to the feedback from her, from what the buyers say, and then we try to just kind of stay in tune with what they want, and that way we're always giving out the best product that we can.
Now, how did you get started on the investment side? And obviously, after finding the deal, the most challenging aspect of making the first deal happen, even subsequent deals, is financing. So you talk about the early days, how you went about finding your deals and financing them, and then maybe how that's changed to what you're doing today.
That's actually a great question because it has changed so much since just when I started 11 years ago. When I started 11 years ago flipping houses, I basically had a job and I was broke and just I wanted to make a change in my life, and there wasn't really anything I could do at my job that was going to make any big financial change. So I got into real estate investing, but I did it without any money and any credit or anything like that. So it was a lot easier to buy houses in 2006 than it is now. And I could get a hard money loan to buy a home, and they would give me enough money to buy the house as well as rehab the house. And then when I was done with it, for me personally, my first two deals, I meant to buy and flip these two houses that I bought at the same time. But when I put them on the market, they wouldn't sell. What I had done is I had made a mistake and I bought the wrong kind of house. I bought a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. I bought it in a bad part of town, and I just didn't really know what I didn't know. But when the houses didn't sell and my loan became due, I didn't know what to do. So somebody told me I should go to the bank and do a cash out refi so that I could pay back the hard money lender. And I was trying to sell the house for about, I think $99,000. And then I had dropped it all the way down to $69,000 and I still couldn't sell it. So when I tried to get when I tried to get the cash out refi from the bank, they told me they would only give me 80% of what it was worth. And when they appraised it at 105. So they gave me like $87,000 and gave me the keys back to the house. So I was kind of shocked because here I was putting money in my pocket and I still get to keep the house, Then I turned around and rented it, and I started cash flowing about $350 a month. So once I did that to the first two houses, I realized that maybe that should be my model. And I just kept doing that over and over. I would buy them, fix them up, and instantly do a cash out refi, put money in my pocket, and rent the houses out. And I built up a rental portfolio that way. And that worked out for a year or two. And then when the market crashed, then the banks just basically said, we're not going to give anybody any money. And that stopped. So by then I had built up enough capital that I was able to buy and fix them up, and then I would just flip them. I kind of went from being a landlord into being a flipper because of the way the market changed.
And so when people go out now, can you give any guidelines on what you go out and look for and where you think the best values are and what kind of margins that you would look for to be successful in your business?
Yeah, everybody's different about that. Some people are really stick to they want to make 20% or they want to make a certain dollar number, say $20,000 on a flip. I don't really do that because of the fact that we've done such high volume. Really what I look for is I just want to make money. Now I'm not going to go flip a house if I think it's going to make $1,000, $2,000. That's too much of a risk. But if it's going to make 10 or 15, I'm fine with that. I don't have to make a certain percentage or a certain dollar amount. I just want to do as many deals as I possibly can. And then overall, at the end of the year, it adds up. So if somebody says, I don't want to flip a house if it's going to make $5,000, $7,000, $8,000, well, then give it to me, because if I can get one of those a month, that adds up to, be what somebody would make in a whole year, just on the houses that people would pass on. So, I don't have like a formula that I really, have to use. I go with my gut feeling, and I've done enough of them that I know when I walk a house and I think the rehab's going to be $40,000 or $20,000, then I'm going to be pretty accurate. I also make sure to do enough due diligence on the house to know what the house is going to sell for. But something that a lot of people don't look at, and they should, is what's the days on the market for that area? Because if you have holding costs and your average days on the market are 120 days, that could really hurt you. Especially if you have to do one deal at a time and you're just waiting on that house to sell to get the money back to go do the next deal. So I like to find areas that have low days on the market, that I can get in and out pretty quickly, pretty decent, easy flips. Houses built in the 80s or 90s is nice. And that's just kind of the sweet spot. That's what we look for.
And what is the profile of, you think, the houses where you have the most demand or where you feel there's the less risk, like how many bedrooms and whatever else you can tell us?
Anything with two bathroom is definitely, almost a must. If it has one bathroom, I've gotten to the point where I won't even look at it unless I can add another bathroom and make it a 2-bathroom house, because people nowadays just do not want a 1-bath house. And it's got to have at least 3 bedrooms. We don't do 2-bedroom houses anymore. That we tried them. There's certain areas that you kind of can get away with it, whether, we have a place called Avondale, and we have a place called Riverside and Murray Hill and San Juan. Those places you can get away with those 2-bedroom, 1-baths because most people are buying the location over the house. But it's still risky. It's a lot more risky to do that than to just go with what most people want. And that's kind of what we do, is we appeal to the masses. What does the biggest group of people want? And those people want a house that's 3-bedroom, 2-bath. That's going to be in that, $180,000 to $280,000 to live in.
Can you talk a little all about landmines when you're buying a home, that potential landmines, and maybe what mistakes that you might have made along the way that first-time investors, that you wish you knew as a first-time investor?
I think one of the things that I see most people afraid of the most is not knowing how much the rehab's going to cost. Mm-hmm. That scares them. What they'll try to do is call people or call a contractor to come out and tell them how much it's going to be. And then if it's too high, they say, I'm not going to buy the house. And the bad thing with that is you're burning your bridge with the contractor because you're wasting their time.
Sure.
And an investor really needs to learn how to be able to estimate repairs, or I should say ballpark, what the estimate repairs are going to be, because you've got to be able to do that, and you've got to be able to make that decision fairly fast. I have what I call the 10-minute estimate sheet. It's a sheet that I basically fill out a couple of quantity numbers, and it's got some math right next to it. And I just do the multiplication, add it all up, and it gives me a number. And that number is usually within about 5% of what the actual rehab ends up being. So it's a way that I can get into a house, look at it very fast, and instantly call the seller and make the offer if I want it.
So with that estimation sheet, is that something just a result of all your years of experience, or is it something that somebody who's relatively new or not quite as experienced could use to arrive at a result?
Yeah, it's something that I created a couple years ago, and I've sort of just morphed it as the years have gone by. And then when I do teaching classes and stuff, I go through that sheet with people, and it's part of what we offer to help new investors that come through our training. But it seems to work out really well, and we designed it in a way that pretty much anybody could use. Like I said, my wife is a realtor, and she uses it. I've had assistants in my office that have come through where I could just hand it to the girl and say, go look at the house and fill out the sheet and tell me what you think. And we've done that for years, and we even do it to test how well does the sheet work, and it seems to be very successful. So that's the way that I've done it. Now, I don't personally need to use the sheet myself because I've done it so many times. I can kind of walk through it and just look at it and have an idea if it's a 20,000, 30,000. But if it's somebody who's newer at it and hasn't done a bunch of houses, you want to do your due diligence. You want to go through and make sure you're looking at the plumbing and the electrical. Is it on a septic tank? You mentioned landmines. Septic tanks and wells is a huge one here in Jacksonville that if you miss that and it needs to be replaced, that could basically wipe out your entire profit.
Mm. Talk to us about how you're finding deals. Are you going through brokers? Are you going through other investors? Are you doing yellow letters, or what are you doing?
So we have a lot of marketing that we do here at our office. We do direct mail marketing, which works out really well for us, but it's a lot of work and there's a good expense to that. Bandit signs are very popular, although the city doesn't allow that, but there's a lot of bandit signs around Jacksonville. You see them everywhere. And wholesalers, there's a lot of wholesalers here in Jacksonville. So most of the deals that I get through wholesalers. I'm pretty much everybody in town knows who I am, so I'll get a phone call or an email blast from them and let me know what they are. Two things. One, if you do get anything like that, you got to act fast. You have to go to the house immediately. There's so much competition out here that if it takes you a few hours to get to it, it's going to be too late, and you really have to jump on it. And then the second thing is, if you're new and you don't have a lot of people contacting you or a lot of wholesalers contacting you, just ride around town and look for look for signs that say we buy houses, because those are usually wholesalers. You can call them and say, I don't have a house to sell, but can I please be on your buyer's list and let me know what you have? Can you send me a copy of your current inventory that I can go through and see if there's anything that I'm interested in buying? So I always tell people that are new, just anytime they ever see a sign, always call it and get on that person's buyer's list.
And what type of margins do wholesalers typically look to work from? Is there any kind of ballpark?
I don't know what the margins are. I know when I first started in the business, $5,000 seemed to be the average profit for a wholesaler, but I've seen them make more than the investor or the rehabber makes a lot of the times. They'll make $30,000 on a wholesale deal, and we can get mad at them and we can be frustrated about it. But if somebody's willing to pay that number, then I guess good for them. I think that if you leave enough meat on the bone for the rehabber, it's going to give you a better name, a better reputation, versus if you try to take a bulk of the profit out and make it really tight for everybody, then everybody kind of knows that you're doing that. So then that's going to make people come in and lowball that wholesaler on everything that they have because they know what they're doing. But there's really no magic number that they have. I don't know what they're using, but I do know that deals that I've done, when I've seen the numbers at the closing, and I've been surprised a lot of times at how much they're making.
Talk to us a little bit about where you are in the market right now, what you're feeling about the Jax market, and perhaps some things that keep you up at night right now.
The market right now seems to really be changing. Inventory is very, very hard to come by right now. Even the wholesalers don't have very good deals that they're sending out there. If they do have anything that remotely seems good, you've got to get it within minutes because everybody's just really hungry for deals. Whereas, we might get a deal or a couple deals a month. Now it might take us a couple months to find a good deal. So it's really, really hard right now. So if you're not doing a good amount of marketing and you're just sort of waiting for something to fall in your lap, it's not going to happen. You've really got to do some work to go after the deals. I've got some students of mine that really try to get creative. I've even got one that he rides around and just looks for houses that look like they need work. And then he just starts walking around the neighborhood, asking the neighbors if they know who owns it and how to get a hold of them. And because he's doing a lot more legwork, he doesn't have as much competition. So he's having some success doing that, finding the houses that way. As far as what I think the market's going to do, I don't know what the market's going to do. And I've always felt like I don't personally care what it does because I'll adjust what I do to what the market does versus hoping the market goes one direction or another. Just like with the way I started, I was, flipping houses. I was doing cash out refis, and then I just adjusted my strategy according to what the market did. If I had to guess what it's going to do, I think it's going to stay tight for a little while. I think inventory is going to get lower. These banks are starting to get rid of all that excess stuff. I know they still have inventory. I've talked to some of these asset managers, and they still have stuff to get rid of, but they just don't let it go as fast as they used to, especially now that the hedge funds aren't here to buy in bulk. So they're just letting it out a little bit differently. So it's going to be tough for a little while. And then I know with the end buyer, that has slowed down as well. Probably, I would say in the last 3 or 4 months, it's slowed down because in the beginning of the year, when we were flipping houses in the beginning of the year, we couldn't keep anything on the market more than a week or two. And now it seems to be taking quite a bit longer than that.
Gotcha. Stephen, anything else? I mean, how about asking him about what investors, newbies should be thinking about right now when they're getting into the market? Maybe there's one particular item that anybody who's in the market right now, you might want to just tell them, Cameron, and say, hey, you guys need to have a heads up for this or that.
For newbies, I mean, I tell them, for one, don't give up. I mean, just because you listen to a seminar or go to a class or something like that, you're not going to go home and everything just falls in your lap. You still have work to do. Take the training that you get and you use it, but actually use it and go after it. You've got to be hungry. But real estate's changed my life. It's changed my life financially. It's changed my daughter's only 7, but I mean, her life is going to be changed because of this. It's done wonders for me. I mean, I went from being broke to a millionaire just because of real estate. So I want to say anybody can do it because anybody can. You just can't give up. But just to go after it. And as far as what to do first, I try to tell people to, if you want to be a landlord, have some capital before you do that. Because if you're broke and you try to have rental property, you're not going to be able to, replace a roof or an AC if it goes out, if you don't have a bank account, and you've got to be able to take care of that stuff legally. So I tell the newbies to kind of go after maybe wholesaling to try to get the small checks that come in a little bit faster, and then move from there into the rehabbing where they can get the bigger checks. And then after you've built up some capital, get into the rental property. And then, in my opinion, most investors, end up lending, after they've done it for a while, because that's the easiest way to make money in this market.
Yeah, no tenants, trash and toilets. You're just collecting a revenue stream. It's not, and the misnomer I think with a lot of folks that get into lending or getting into more of the passive, would be mobile home parks and just renting land or whatever that might be, where you don't have a lot of maintenance. They say, "What's a passive investment?" I try to let's try to be honest with everybody. There's no such thing as passive in real estate. It's always active. It's just some are more passive than others.
And are you seeing the people that you work with? I mean, are they typically focusing on staying in the single family arena, or do you see them progressing into multifamily and other areas?
It is mostly in the single family because it seems easier to them, I guess, because that's where the most knowledge is at. Mobile home parks or mobile homes in single mobile homes is not done very much in Jacksonville, even though there's mobile homes all over the place. I have a friend of mine who basically has made his whole business out of buying mobile homes. He doesn't buy the mobile home for the mobile home. He buys it for the land. And he just collects revenue off of the mobile home while he's hanging on to the land. That's really what he's doing. And he just keeps acquiring more and more of them to, then one day he can just sell everything off. And he doesn't have hardly any competition because it's just not what most people do. Most people go after the single family home.
The brick and mortar,
And then the multifamily is not for the beginner. Multifamily is usually for the more experienced investor. So you just don't have as much competition in those arenas.
Well, Cameron, you want to, again, tell our investors what you're looking for and what specific neighborhood you're looking in, and let them know how they can reach you by telephone or email or best method?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'm always looking for properties. I'm even looking for land to build spec homes on. Here in Jacksonville, which is the Duval County, even Orange Park, which is the Clay County area. Those are the two areas that I focus on. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, anything bigger than that, that's fine. I don't really do high-end homes. I stick with my kind of bread and butter, houses that I can sell for that, 180 to 280 range. Looking to do that kind of stuff. I do joint ventures with people if they're local in the area and want to team up. I do stuff like that. The way people can reach me, there's a couple ways. One, they can call my office at 904-900-1162. You can also go, I have a website, just CameronGaskill.com. You can go in there. It's with 2 L's in Gaskill. And you can go in there and see what we do. And if there's anything that you want to do with us, whether it be, JVing on something or you want to wholesale properties to us, anything like that, you can go on that website and see exactly what we're looking for or what we have to offer.
Terrific. Cameron, really appreciate it. Stephen, anything else before we let Cameron go?
Cameron, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you in Jacksonville.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you having me on. It's been a blast, and good luck to you guys in the future.
All right, buddy. Thank you. And that was Cameron Gaskill from Jacksonville, Florida. Stephen, what were your thoughts?
Well, I thought Cameron's formula was very succinct. He keeps it simple. What he does is he appeals to the masses. He knows that his target market is 3-bedroom, 2 baths, and between $180,000 and $200,000 a year. And he doesn't make it complicated. He stays in that arena.
Yeah, these guys that are successful, they tend to follow a fairly narrow path and try to perfect their methods. They're not all over the place. They tend not to be buying retail and multifamily and industrial and single family. They tend to stick in a fairly narrow path and learn it very, very well. And that's certainly what Cameron's done in his real estate career. Stephen, other great speakers, where can we find those?
There's only one place to go. It's www.investfloridashow.com. We have a whole archive of prior speakers, and you should also download the app onto your mobile device so that you can listen while you're in the gym or in the car.
Guys, as always, we appreciate the time that you invest with us each and every episode. And until next time, hasta la vista.
You've just listened to the Invest Florida podcast with Eric Odom and Steven Silverman. Join us every week for actionable real estate investment ideas, and of course, visit our website at www.investfloridashow.com for more shows and tips on how to earn a cash flow in the real estate market in Florida. While hosts and producers of the Invest Florida show have no reason to doubt the validity of comments of our guests, we do not warranty their accuracy. Please check with your legal, financial, and tax advisors before entering into any investment. Returns will vary from person to person and deal to deal based on unique circumstances. All information expressed in this show is for educational purposes only. Opinions of the guests are not necessarily shared by the hosts and producers of the Invest Florida show.